Alright, so after a few people have asked me, hey, where's your review for Starfield? I decided I gotta do it, but I gotta warn you right now, it's not a review. It's more an impressions. This game is going to take a while to review. It's going to take a while to really get into it. I have spent over 30 hours on it so far. I have barely scratched the surface. And so, if you're familiar with Fallout 4, Skyrim, any of the Elder Scrolls games, you will get an idea of what's coming. The biggest mistake you can make, which is what I made, was I said I wanted Skyrim in space. It's not what we got, but it is, but it isn't. So let's talk about it. Okay, so first off, when I first heard of Starfield, my expectations were Skyrim in space. I wanted to go anywhere, do anything I wanted, be the kind of character I wanted to be. I just wanted that freedom that the Elder Scrolls games and Fallout 4 provide. So, did I get that? Yes. But is it like an Elder Scrolls? Yes and no. Okay, so this is the tough one. There are a lot of things that this has in common with the Elder Scrolls games. In fact, a lot of the button presses and functionality are the same. You can go anywhere. You can pretty much do anything. There are a couple downsides to that make it to where it's not a Skyrim. So, but let's talk about first something cool that I got with the big edition that includes everything. It included a digital soundtrack, which I can play on my system, and it plays the theme music, which if you're familiar with Fallouts, with the Elder Scrolls, they take their music very seriously. And we're talking full orchestration, full production. It has been redone by many orchestras across the world with like the Skyrim. If you look up Skyrim, the Skyrim soundtrack, you'll see that it's been done so many places, so many people just absolutely love that. And for good reason. It is amazing quality music. So with that, which is cool, with that pre-order, I got the soundtrack, and you can play clips of the game, and it shows artwork, renders, that kind of thing, in a slideshow format or in a video format. You take your pick, and it just plays the music for you while you're watching it. Or you can stick it on and enjoy it while you're doing something else. It's absolutely fantastic edition, and I am so glad that I got the big version of the game because I enjoy that a lot. Okay, then you have your character creation, which if you're familiar with an Elder Scrolls or Fallout game, you'll be right at home. You create your character, you can adjust how they look, you can pretty much make them look as weird or as normal as you want. It's actually a pretty cool, character creation thing. It's typical. So again, if you're used to Fallout or Elder Scrolls, you'll be right at home here. Next thing we got is really good quality character interactions. The voice work was done. You know how some of those games you play and their voices, Resident Evil, are so cheesy that, and we're talking the early Resident Evils, they're so cheesy that you just cringe. Okay? The Elder Scrolls games have always taken themselves fairly seriously, but like in some of the games, they only had a couple voice actors, and so a lot of them act the same. They sound the same. In Starfield, they really went all out with the dialogue, with the quality of voice work, and it pays off because it is fantastic. Really good characters. They each have an individual identity and individual way of expressing themselves. They did a good job with the variety in that, so I got to give that to them. The next thing that really propels this game really up high is the actual gunplay. The first-person shooter, you can play it in third person or you can play it first person. I prefer first-person mode, and it feels like a good first-person shooter. I guess they went and they got advice from the people who did the Wolfenstein games, and because they're all part of that family, and they said, "Hey, come help us with our gunplay here. We want it to be good." And so they did a fantastic job with that. And so the guns feel good. They shoot great. It's just really good. So the control is smooth. The control, like with your jetpack, if you take ranks up in your jetpack, you control it more, and it goes higher. You get more boost, that kind of thing. So I'm just trying to get a couple of things out of the way before I really tell you what I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. So the gunplay is really, really good, and that actually makes the game a ton better than it would have been. Because I guess before they were going to release a way earlier version. That's when Microsoft bought them, and they said, hold off on that. Don't release it. I want you to really fine-tune it. And so for that, I mean, Microsoft deserves total props on that. Delaying the game a year, fantastic. That was smart. You know, hindsight's always 20/20. Well, if they hadn't delayed that, then they might have released a disaster. So, but this is really fine-tuned as far as Bethesda games go. Least buggy, although there are some bugs. Sometimes you'll shoot an enemy and he'll start wiggling around, or he'll get caught up in the rafters or something. Some weird things happen. Like I had my robot sitting on the front of my ship, and I have no clue why. But we're talking outside, and I'm flying around, and it's sitting there on my hood, basically. So as in any Elder Scrolls games, like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, they do the lock picking. So there are lots of locked things. You do the lock picking. It was really hard for me to understand it at first because I was looking at it wrong, and also with my memory issues, it makes it really hard to remember how to do things. But Tucker told me, hey, look at it from the inside out. Don't worry about the outside one. Look at the inside, because it gives you a few options. Like, say, it gives you 6 options, and they have pins in different areas. And then the lock has, depending on the difficulty, 2 or 3 or 4 rings, and it has little holes in the circle. And you have to match up the little pins to get rid of the holes within the circle to make the circle disappear. And so the thought of just going from the middle out didn't occur to me, and I was getting so frustrated with it. And once I figured that out, once Tucker clued me in on that, I can do the hardest locks. It's not that hard. And so it might be frustrating at first, but you gotta give it time. So the big question was, how is the space flight going to be? And I can tell you that it's actually really good. So if you played games like Wing Commander before, you'll feel right at home. The pitch, yaw, turn, all that stuff, it's there. Firing your weapons. What you're trying to do is deplete their shields, and then there are certain weapons that can do that better than others. And then once you get into the actual ship, you have the only option to begin with is destroying it. As you gain in levels in piloting, then you can target certain areas of their ship. So you can target their propulsion or their weapons. And so if you can take out those, you can actually take over the ship. Then you dock with the ship, get in, and have a nice little gunfight with the people inside, and then you can steal the ship. And so right now I have 5 ships. So if I see a ship sitting out there, I will try to get on it and take it. So it's a blast. That part of it is really good. The dialogue options are actually really good. So it's basically like I said, again, if you have played any of the other Elder Scrolls games or Fallout games, you'll understand the dialogue choice. There is no spoken dialogue for your character, but all the responses from the other characters are voiced. And they did more sound work for voices, I guess, than Skyrim, Fallout, and all those combined. They did a ton of voice acting, which is why they didn't add your voice, because that would have just added, it would have doubled it. It would have doubled the amount of voice work they would have to do. And so I actually prefer it without them voicing my character, because I have it in my mind what my character sounds like, what he does. So this game is all, right now for me, it's about exploration. I love landing on planets, going around, scanning vegetation, formations, just scanning the planet and getting to know what it's about. You have different suits for the different planets, because each planet will attack you with different things, whether it be creatures or just the elements. And a lot of suits will have different ratings on the elements, and so you have to pick the right suit if you want to last a long time out on a planet. And this is where I'm losing a lot of time, because I love just walking around on planets, scanning things, and then realizing, hey, wait, there's a base over there, and so I will go take out the base. I mean, if it's bad people, you don't take out the good people. But I will go take out the base, or I will see a ship land, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to steal that ship. And so I will go in, scope in on the enemies that are down there. If they are enemies, then I will either take them out, and hopefully the ship's still there, or if a lot of times the ships will take off, I'll race to the ship and jump in the back of it. And then you can go up, you have to kill all the guys. In order to take over the ship, you got to take them all over, and that's inside and out. So you'll go in, blast them, have nice, gunfights. It's Star Wars-esque gunfights in the ships. And after you have your battle, then you have to make sure you clear out the guys on the outside. Then you can claim the ship. And then you fly into port, and you have to register it, which costs anywhere between 6,000 and 60,000 credits, depending on the ship. So that's what I've been doing a lot of, is just going and exploring. Now the main quest is kind of cool. You do get, I don't want to spoil anything, but you do get, and I'm only going to spoil this because it's in the video, you do get powers. So think of it like Skyrim and the shouts. You have powers that you can attain by collecting pieces of whatever device that it's creating. And as you do this, you gain abilities. And you'll see the first one you get is the one to make your enemies basically probably about a 20 square foot radius weightless and kind of in suspended animation. So if you walk into a group of enemies, do your special ability, they will just start floating upwards helpless, and you can just take them out. And that is actually pretty cool. So I do look forward to seeing what the other abilities are, and we'll see. So the question is, how would I rate this game? I can't yet. The thing is, it's good. It is fantastic. I love this game. Is it better than Skyrim? I don't know yet. Is it better than Fallout? I don't know yet. But it is good. Now the thing is, I went into it with expectations through the roof. And I can tell you that while some of my expectations were exceeded, some of them weren't. And so there's kind of a trade-off. But all in all, if you keep your expectations low and just let the game present itself to you, I think you're going to find a lot. It takes a while to get into it. So expect to play it for a few hours, not really understanding or knowing what to do. Ship combat is kind of a pain until you put some skills in piloting. The locks are confusing until it clicks. Just give the game the time to explain itself to you. That's all I can say. It is a fantastic game. It has already propelled itself into probably one of my top 10 favorite games that I've ever played. This game has hooked me. This game is amazing. And so give it a try. If you're on Game Pass, just download it. If you're not on Game Pass, you might want to be. Game Pass is a great deal still. You know, the day one releases like Starfield, the new Forza that's coming out, all the Microsoft title, the Microsoft published games are day one in Game Pass. And with the acquisition of Activision Blizzard and with the Activision of Bethesda, they were able to put a game like Starfield on Game Pass. So I'm a big fan of Game Pass, but I still like owning my games. So it is kind of a rental service, because it's kind of a Netflix. It's the Netflix of video games. So which is why I, again, with all my Bing points, I saved up and I got the big version of Starfield. And that was $100 that I didn't pay any cash for. Win. So give the game a try. It is fantastic. The soundtrack is amazing. Gameplay is amazing. The one thing that frustrates people is the load that comes every time you go off a planet or onto a planet. The big complaint is, well, it's not like No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky, you could just take off into the atmosphere. And to that argument, I say, thank you for not being like No Man's Sky, because I hated that game. But I love this game. And I like I said, I won't give it a rating. But all the things are there. Great graphics, great dialogue, great gunplay. It is a top tier game. It is truly amazing. Just give it time to sink in. Play it for a bit. Enjoy it. At first it might be a little frustrating, but just let it slowly creep up on you and you'll find yourself loving it. I hear that a lot. So that's my thoughts on the game. Give it a try. Let me know what you think.